This is God.
Hello everyone, this is Joshua.
And Josh too.
And today we're going to be reviewing The Invisible Man from 2020. The Invisible Man stars Elisabeth Moss,
Aldous Hodge, Harriet Dyer, Oliver Jackson Cohen, Storm Reed, Michael Dorman, and Amali Golden.
and is written and directed by Leigh Whannell.
The plot is what you can't see can hurt you. Trapped in a violent, controlling relationship with a wealthy scientist, Cecilia escapes in the dead of night and disappears into hiding. But when her abusive ex suddenly dies, Cecilia suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of eerie coincidences turn lethal, threatening the lives of those she loves, Cecilia's sanity begins to unravel while she desperately tries to prove she is being haunted by someone nobody can see. I think the biggest one would be how they did all the action scenes, how they used mostly practical.
Yeah, I really dug that. And watching the behind the scenes, which are awesome. If you own the Blu-ray or DVD, go watch special features. They're awesome.
Yeah. I would have swore it was CGI before.
Yeah, but it's all practical. Maybe a few digital effects here and there, but I'm just surprised with how good the effects were, especially with the whole stuff with the Invisible Man, like all those action sequences and those shots, and just so good.
Right.
They wanted me to do as much of it as possible, although I had incredible assistance from my stunt double, Sarah. I had an incredible stunt team here.
3, 2, 1, go!
I think the writing was pretty amazing too.
Yeah,
It was a totally
Leigh Whannell did an awesome job with the writing, actually. This was the first movie we saw that he directed / wrote. Well, not he wrote, because he wrote the original Saw. But the first one he definitely directed, and we thought he did an amazing job as director.
Right. And in my opinion, I think compared to the original Saw, this was definitely...
Yeah, I'm not sure how controversial this would be to say, but I really think Leigh Whannell is probably a better director, in my opinion, than James Wan in regards to horror.
I agree, so...
Because, James Wan brought so much stuff that I wanted to see in, what I've been wanting Hollywood to do with horror movies for years now. He seemed to grasp the concept of what you don't see is scarier than what you do see, the fear of the unknown and everything.
Audience's imagination is the special effect.
And that's something I've been saying to people, I've been saying that to you,
Yeah.
which you never really, somewhat got what I was saying, but once you saw this, you really
Because that's what the whole movie was what you can't see is scary.
and that is scarier, actually, because it's the Invisible Man could be anywhere,
Right.
and you just wouldn't know it.
Right.
And I liked how Leigh Whannell played with the cinematography of that too. He did the camera movements and that to the point where, you could, basically to the point where, he has it almost perfectly to where, you're having to look to see if the Invisible Man is right there. And he started that off from the very first frame.
Right. Before you
Before the Invisible Man even pops into the movie.
Yeah. He did it in a way where you could almost imagine somebody was standing there, even though you could.
Yeah, it's almost like the Invisible Man's presence is always there from frame one of the movie.
Yeah.
And, it's very, there's so much tension and suspense with this movie. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah, me too.
And I wasn't really, and also he does a really good job with subverting expectations in that sense, because, there were a lot of times with certain scares and that was they're going to go in this direction. But he doesn't do it.
Yeah. I felt like a lot of times they were going to do a jump scare and then it ended up not being.
Yeah, that's another thing I love about this movie. No jump scares. Seriously, that's also what I've been asking for, asking out of horror film directors now these days. Do not do those jump scares, because again, doing jump scares is basically like the horror movie equivalent of someone going right behind you shouting boo, like, you know? It's like, and sure, it may work at one point, you know, because it's like, like, sure, it may work a little bit, but that's because all you just did was startle the audience.
Right.
You didn't really give them a sense of fear. Especially after doing it so often, which I've seen a lot of horror movies that do that. I'm looking at you, Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Like, it gets annoying and not scary.
Right.
And this film really seems to acknowledge that, that's not a good way to scare people. Like, actually put real fear into people. Another thing I was surprised with was the acting, especially.
Well, especially with new actors, right?
Yeah, like, I was really impressed with Elisabeth Moss as the main character.
Yeah.
Like, I thought her acting was really good. Now, she's a newcomer. I think the only work she did was mainly on TV, which I haven't seen any of her other work, but she did a really damn good job, actually. Like, I would love to see her in other films now, especially horror. So, because I think she just pulled off all that stuff really well, really convincing.
Right.
Also, another thing with the writing that I could admire is that they took, like, basically this whole movie has like commentary on the Me Too movement.
But they're not shoving
it down your throat, and they make the characters likable. Also, they make the Invisible Man, because it's basically, again, Elisabeth Moss running away from abusive relationship. Like, they did make him like this stereotypical abusive asshat that you would see. They actually make him realistic with abuse. Like, I especially applaud Lee Winnell for that, because even the special features, he said when he's writing stories and that, he doesn't look strictly for, commentary or stuff like that. That stuff eventually comes later, as he's writing the movie.
Right, and that's really how it should be, instead of starting a movie off with a idea of what you're going to shove down everybody's throats.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I do with my films, actually. In fact, what I'm going to be doing with Mine and Abe's Candyman movie coming up.
Right.
So it's just I focus on writing good story first, and then if I want to add some social commentary to it, then I would. Or any form of commentary, then I do. And I also try to make sure it's not shoved down my audience's throats.
Right, because everybody has different...
Yeah, and I've seen the results of films doing that. It's not good. I mean, that's what I heard happened with the Black Christmas remake that also came from Blumhouse.
Right.
And I've heard a lot of people said, like, even people who are for the Me Too movement and that did not like Black Christmas 2019, but did like this one.
Right.
So.
Well, and that was one that started off, like, before it was a remake, it was a really good movie, and then they kind of completely ruined it with...
Yeah. Well, I heard there were other things wrong with it besides
the social...
Yeah, social commentary. I still have yet to see the Black Christmas remake, so I'll probably review that at some point, since I reviewed the other two movies. We were talking about the writing.
Yeah, you just got through the point of there is social commentary, but he doesn't shove it down people's throats.
Yeah. What's another positive for you?
The lighting.
Yeah, the lighting, the
was
cinematography in general, like the cinematography, the lighting. Like, even the camera work is so smoothly done.
Right.
And that's probably because a lot of the times, especially in action shots, they use this robotic camera in which they programmed it.
And it moved with the actors.
Yeah.
So it was a more natural picture.
Yeah, and like, I'm surprised, like I wonder how many takes they had to do stuff on that. Because to me, it just feels like almost like, even with the behind the scenes stuff, it feels like they only used one take.
Right. I think at one point he said they had to do a lot of takes, but it was with the car moving or something.
Yeah.
It was like 27 takes or something like that.
Yeah, versus for other action scenes, it seems like it was only one take.
Yeah.
And that's impressive.
Right.
Like, seriously, we so got a hand to Lee Winnell for this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
we started going through looking for more stuff like this movie right afterwards because it was so
Yeah.
good. So.
In fact, one of the movies we watched was his directorial debut, Insidious Chapter 3.
Right.
Which you never seen the Insidious movies, but I have seen the first two.
And that was kind of the same deal with the lighting.
But we'll get to that when we review Insidious Chapter 3. Also, I really like the music too. It wasn't anything too fancy. It was subtle, creepy, fit the tone of the movie. Actually, the pacing of the movie was really good too. Like, this movie clocks in about 2 hours or something like that.
Right over 2 hours.
Right over 2 hours, and it didn't felt like it whatsoever.
No.
Like, seriously, I could have sworn I was watching like an hour-long movie.
Oh yeah.
So, and not only that too. Again, another thing I have to give to Leigh Whannell's talent is that he's able to create like movies that are like get you hooked and engaged, and you just don't want to stop watching.
Right, and you can kind of feel what the characters are feeling, which is important.
Which I think that also is like has to give props to the actors.
Right.
Because the actors did such a good job with how they're feeling that, especially Elisabeth Moss, I think.
I like the guy that played James too.
Yeah,
I can't remember what his name was now. But
which character are you talking about?
James was the cop that
the cop that was basically, helping her out and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that character too, and his daughter as well. I thought all of them were really likable characters.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see anything happen to them.
Right.
So, what else can we talk about? We can talk about the plausibility of the Invisible Man concept in the movie. That I thought was the way they explained it. I won't get into spoilers with this. You would just have to watch the movie, but the way they explained it is actually pretty plausible with,
becoming invisible.
It's like,
could happen.
Yeah, and we know it's being worked on, actually. In fact, I know Leigh Whannell actually did research on that to make sure if what he's going with is plausible. And they did a really good job with that.
Yeah. That was another one of my favorite parts, probably. And the ending.
Yeah, the ending. Without getting into any spoilers, the twists in this movies were so good.
I think the ending was probably the best twist I've seen in a movie. Maybe ever.
Some of that is basically how I think of twist endings.
Right.
And how I think, for example, with my third Saw film that I have in mind to do, Saw in Game Part 2, my twist ending, I think, might be on par with that. In terms of, the reveals and everything. And just, nobody expecting it. Even at times make you rethink the whole movie at times. What you saw throughout the movie.
I think it's definitely character changing too. When there's a twist like that, because it makes you see the character different.
Yeah, I think also it changed Elisabeth Moss' character too.
That's what I was talking about, right?
By the end of it.
Yeah. Well, and if you ever rewatch the movie, then you're gonna think of them like a totally different.
Yeah. Do you got any negatives for this movie?
I'm thinking, dang man, I don't know.
The only negative I could think of, I'm not sure, I just don't know where to put this, whether in mixed stats, in my mixed thoughts or negatives, so it's one of those things I think could kind of switch depending on maybe multiple rewatches and that. But, so basically you have this invisible man that's, hell-bent on tormenting and psychologically, messing with Cecilia. And there's this moment in which he basically shows himself in a hospital and starts shooting up everybody in that, and
completely forgoes being.
Yeah, and it's like he does realize there are cameras all over the place that could see him, especially since she damaged his suit in that. So people
and I can kind of see that being explained like by unbridled rage. You know, I could see him making that mistake, but I don't know if that's the direction they're trying to take.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's kind of like a bit of logic issue with the movie.
Yeah.
Even with its own universe logic.
Yeah, I think my only issue really with it was Cecilia's sister not having a big enough role in it. I don't think. I think she was a pretty likable character.
And a good actress too.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it would have been cool to kind of see more of her in it with the direction they went.
Then again, I could understand because this is Cecilia's story, not her sister.
Right.
So
I think it would have maybe made you feel more for the character though with how they went with it, you know. Yeah. But I think that's not even that big of an issue. Like,
which is why like these are not big as big of issues, which is why I'm not sure if it's under mixed.
I would say mixed thoughts, because I can't really say I had any
like true negatives.
Issues. Right, yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to give The Invisible Man 2020 a 5 out of 5 stars.
I would agree with that. I would also give it 5 out of 5.
This was an awesome movie, actually. Honestly, with what I was hearing about the movie and that, I was like, it's being basically, having, social commentary on the Me Too movement and that. I'm like, and knowing how films now these days get so political, and so political that shoves it down your throat, and now I'm like, oh great, not another one of these.
Yeah.
I was worried it'd be like that. But Leigh Whannell did surprise both of us on that regard. And again, I gotta give props to Leigh Whannell and all the people involved. They did a really good job. And I feel like they made this film more timeless than they would have otherwise if they went the other way.
Right, because kids in 20 years from now, they're not going to care at all about what was going on in this time.
Yeah, like in 2020 and that. Yeah. So, and there's probably going to be much more major issues going on in that. So, that's why I think, if you can't make your political commentary feel timeless, don't do it at all.
Right, there's no point to it because you're not going to get through to the generation.
Yeah, and for me, I would rather be timeless than what's current.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, all the best films seem to be the ones that are timeless. Right. You feel like you could watch them, just in any time period.
Right. And the social commentary you did go with was abusive relationships, which that probably will always be an issue, unfortunately,
Yeah, and, I've known some people that went through that stuff.
Right.
And it's a tragic thing to go through. Something it's one of those things I wouldn't even wish upon my worst enemy. On.
Right. It doesn't get much more tragic than that. One of the people you loving the most in life treating you or doing those terrible things to you. It doesn't get much worse than that.
Yeah.
If it's someone you don't know at all or somebody that hates you doing those things, they're not nearly as bad as if it's somebody that, you love.
And honestly, compared to the two, you could easily forget the one that you don't know.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, you can get over that. You'll always remember the person you love.
But if it's being done to you by somebody who you thought loved you and that, it leaves that scar.
Right.
Both mentally and sometimes physically too.
So that was a good point to be pushing.
Yeah. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching.
Until next time.